Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, May 31st. Our guest is Jim Rooney, the chief executive of the Boston Chamber of Commerce. Let's go on the record. Online and in person, Jim Rooney is a champion for the hub economy. Can the city reclaim its momentum in the new normal, or are we about to enter the great unknown? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR this morning. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu. We do continue to follow social distancing protocols as Massachusetts now finds itself on the other side of the COVID-19 surge. Our in-studio guest this morning, socially distanced, is Jim Rooney, the CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce and a member of the advisory board appointed by Mayor Marty Walsh to help the city reopen its economy. It's great to see you, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Ed.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Rooney. You were not on the governor's advisory board for reopening. Do you think the advice he was given for reopening the state was too cautious? And do you think he left businesses in the lurch with sort of insufficient prep time?
Well, I think the governor's 4 stages was a good structure. I think he built a lot of flexibility into that structure in terms of the dates when we would enter each phase and some of the preconditions by which we would move from phase to phase, and also some flexibility in the guidelines that would be associated with each phase. So it's a good framework, but there's a lot of flexibility built into it based on the need for dynamic decision making. So I think overall it's a good way forward.
I know you were sort of pushing for more details before he announced it. Do you think that he should have been a little bit more forthcoming, at least behind the scenes with the business community? And do you think that maybe he was a little bit too flexible, or do you think it was just the right amount of flexibility?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you look at, for example, the data that the governor said that he is following, he identified 6 categories: number of hospitalizations, number of new cases, for example. I think one of the things people would like to understand is what specific metric or goal is he looking for in those to move from phase to phase. So not just that he's following those specific categories, but what are they? So that is the kind of specificity we'd like to see more of going forward, along with some of the underlying plans for how the economy will reopen with respect to public transportation, childcare, and those other important dimensions of a reopening plan.
Well, as Jim, as we mentioned, you're not on the governor's advisory board, but you are on Mayor Walsh's reopening advisory board. So I'm curious because of the weighted situation going on. In other words, Boston is such a big player in the state of Massachusetts. So what's the difference between reopening Boston and reopening most of the rest of the state?
Yeah, I think it comes down to density and economic activity. Anyone who works in Boston knows that there are economic activity centers or clusters of business in the South Boston waterfront, the financial district, Longwood Medical area over to Kendall Square. So density is a big difference in what the mayor has to deal with. Not that the governor doesn't have to consider the impact of his decisions on Boston, but the governor is thinking of less densely populated areas, some rural areas. So the plan has to be tweaked a little to accommodate the different environments.
Focusing just here on Boston, do you envision a new business model here in the city where more, if not most, employees work from home primarily? And are you recommending your members redesign their work models to reflect that?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think no 2 businesses are alike. I mean, we represent about 1,400 companies in all industries of all sizes, from sole proprietors to multinational companies with hundreds of thousands of employees. They're all thinking about the applications of technology. They're all thinking about work from home. Many of our employers, even before the governor relaxes some of the restrictions, have already planned for work from home, for example, through the summer. One in particular, a CEO, said that she was going to do governor plus 30. So whenever the governor said offices could reopen, she was going to open her office 30 days later and then phase it in. So the business community is already thinking about the future, applications of technology, relaxation of work from home, layout of office space. and how that will not only conform to whatever guidance is given, but also what it might look like for the long term.
And are you hearing that some companies might even have their workers working from home through Labor Day, if not through the end of the year?
Yeah, we're hearing that companies have already announced, some major employers, thousands of people, who have already announced that they are going to work from home through Labor Day, the end of the year. What's going on in the business community is CEOs and HR directors are listening to what their employees are saying, and a couple of the issues that they find concerning in their return to work is taking public transportation, the availability of childcare. So employers who are putting the safety of their employees first are saying that, you know what, we've gotten pretty good at this work from home model. We're able to do it. We have that privilege in some of our companies. So instead of dealing with taking the T or your child care issues, just continue to work from home. So there's a lot of that going on.
Tomorrow is June 1st, and in the governor's plan, Boston's allowed to expand the workforce. Do you think most businesses will? What do you think will happen?
Well, tomorrow the rules are that 25% can return to office space. As I said, a lot will work from home. Interesting in the Boston situation is that Boston is one of the few cities around the country that doubles in population during the day because so many people commute in. The T carries 1 million people every day, either in and out of Boston or within Boston. I expect that even with the relaxation up to 25%, we won't see anywhere near those numbers. I don't think we'll see that 700,000 or so people that normally come in.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. You were just mentioning the T and public transportation and issues that people are going to deal with as we get on the road. There were big plans to expand and repair the MBTA and commuter rail services before the pandemic. Now there are fears of getting in overcrowded buses and trains. So do you think the T's future should go back to the drawing board? Should we refocus this?
Well, at some point, we won't return to the 2019 normal, but we'll enter a 2021 normal, whatever that looks like. And some of the underlying problems with the T will still be there. There will be at some point, it may be a year from now, it may be a year and a half from now, those 1 million people will return. Maybe it's after a vaccine. And the issues that the T had before in terms of needs for investment, both on the rolling stock trains and buses and the wayside track power signals, will all be there, and we can't keep our eye off that ball in the long term.
Jim, as you know, the Boston Marathon was canceled this past week. It had been postponed originally until September. Now even that's off. What's the economic impact for the city, and is this sort of a signal that people should take that phase 2 of the state's reopening may not happen on June 8th?
Yeah, it's a huge economic impact. Millions of dollars. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people come to Massachusetts for this event. It's an event that is uplifting to the spirit of not just Boston, Greater Boston, Massachusetts. It's a national event. So I think that this decision was tough, both from a public health perspective, but also from an emotional perspective. To have to cancel the Boston Marathon is tough. I think anything that involves crowds, gathering, won't return for a while. I don't think you'll see large conventions,
Red Sox
large
games,
sporting events, types of things.
People in Fenway Park to watch Red Sox
you won't
games.
see those kinds of things for quite a while.
The restaurants, as you know, got sort of guidelines for reopening. Do you think most restaurants, especially here in the city of Boston, if not throughout the state, are ready for a dramatically different look?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with the restaurant community. I've seen the plan that they have put up independently to reopen. It's a very good plan. They've consulted medical professionals, how to distance, not having shared condiments. The restaurant community has really stepped up from a planning perspective, and I think as they're allowed to reopen, they'll do a good job by and large keeping their customers and their employees safe.
Jim Rooney is with us. We're on the record this morning. We'll be right back.